the people who pour into you, just pour into them. And then that's the best way to be an adult.
What's up, folks? Welcome to another episode of the Blerd Girl podcast. I'm Karen Mahorn, aka the Blerd Girl, and this episode, I'm joined by author, entrepreneur, and podcaster Jacque Aye. She's here to talk about her debut novel, How to Be a Better Adult. Now, it's not a self-help book. It's actually a YA fictional story about a very relatable character. So get comfortable. Up next, my conversation with Jacque Aye. Jacque! Welcome back to the show. I'm so excited to have you. The last time you were here, we were talking about Adorned by Chi, which was your other venture, but now you've transformed like a butterfly to another chapter. Also, I feel like, what was that? 2020, 2019? Like, it feels like 100 years ago when I spoke to you.
Yeah, I think it was in 2020, which that was weird year. Yeah.
But
you were inviting me back.
Yeah, absolutely. But I really do feel like you've transformed into this butterfly because, first of all, you wrote a book. Second, you've got a whole different aesthetic going on online, and I love it. It's very calm. It's very chill. So tell me what that's about.
I think part of it is just like growing, getting older, experiencing things. But also I kind of shifted my focus. Not that I haven't been focused on mental health and things like that, because, I always sold merchandise that said don't talk to me, or like sad and bougie and things like that. And so I've always kind of talked about my emotions through the things that I create, through the characters that I create. But now I'm kind of leaning more into it and being more vocal and open about things that I've experienced, just because I don't know what is too much to talk about on here in terms of mental health and all these things, but a trigger warning for anybody listening who may be struggling with things. But I went through a period of super bad depression. And after that, I was like, wait a minute, if I feel like this, there's other people out there who feel like this. Oh my God. I want to do what I can in the way that I do to kind of help other people be seen, and also kind of validate myself. Even with this book that I just wrote, people are telling me that they feel seen through the main character.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, which also validates me, because I'm like, okay, so I'm not the only person who is going through these.
Just so everybody knows the title of your book.
Oh, yes. So the title of the book that I just published is called How to Be a Better Adult. It is actually a novel. It is not a self-help book, although I have written a self-help book too.
You know what's really funny is that I also thought it was a self-help book.
Really?
Yes, I bought it. Listen, I bought it because your name was on it, and I know you don't want to support it. So I didn't know what it was. It could have been a cookbook. I would have bought it. But I really did think it was a self-help book. And then I started reading it. I'm like, oh, no, this is a story. What made you decide to write a novel?
So actually, I've been writing fiction since middle school, actually since elementary school. But since the middle school, I've been gathering stories. And so I had How to Be a Better Adult in my Google Drive for years. And anytime I would go through anything, I would go and start a story. And so it's this isn't even the first novel I've written. It's just the first one I've put out. I actually have a backlog of stories in my Google Drive. This is probably the third one that I've written, and I have two more kind of backed up. Yeah, this is just the first one that I've released to the public. I sent it to my baby brother when I first started writing it. And, he was not I think he was a teenager, and he was like, this one's boring. I like your other one better. But then now that he's kind of like a baby in corporate America, that's how long. Yeah, that's how long I've been writing it. Now that he's a little corporate baby, he's like, yeah, I really like this book. I'm like, a few years ago, you said it was boring. But
Damn, there's your target age group right there.
Exactly. Once you slide into the workforce, you kind of get it. Because
let's talk about it a little bit. Let's talk about what How to Be a Better Adult is about. And then I mentioned the main character, Hope. Who was she in this story, and what is her journey?
Yeah. So Basically, I've been describing How to Be a Better Adult as like Atlanta meets Sorry to Bother You, because they're both kind of like
Without the
surreal
horses.
and trippy. Yes, no horses, no horses, but still weird stuff happens. So basically, Hope is neurodivergent. I don't explicitly state it in story, but the way that she thinks, the way that she acts, like the things that she bumps up against is because of her neurodivergence. And she's in the corporate world. You know, she was a star student in her youth. I describe it as like that star being like unceremoniously ripped from your chest when your age outpaces your talent. So like, I wish I had some sort of training on how to exist in the workspace, because I had no idea.
Aw.
Yeah, I was just, I didn't understand like double speak or like passive aggression and stuff like that. And so that's kind of like what the character is going through, where there is like the story starts and there's another character who is her cubicle neighbor who finally decides to speak to her, and she's so excited. She's like, oh my gosh, my cubicle neighbor is speaking to me, only for him to ask her to like fetch his coffee. And they are coworkers, you know? And so
Yeah, there is a lot of passive aggressive office stuff that's going on. I was taught from a young age from my mom, I think, 'cause she's not from this country, and she would tell me constantly, like, Americans don't say what they mean. So you have to learn how to speak like them. Like, you're saying one thing, but you might mean something else. And that is very, very difficult to do if you've never had to do it before.
Exactly. And when I reflect back on like because I'm from Kansas. I went to a small school. I went to a tiny high school. I think there was 100 people in my graduating class.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I've always been weird. I just didn't notice it. I didn't notice it until like college, where.
Yeah, when they throw you into Gen Pop and then you're like, oh.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm like, why is it so hard to like maintain friends, or like, why am I so overwhelmed? It's like, because I'm sitting in a classroom with more students in it than my entire high school. And so there's all of that. And then when you start getting into like work and like corporate and stuff like that, it's just a whole other beast. And it gets so exhausting. Like, I'm sure it's exhausting for everyone because you almost have to wear this mask every day. Yeah. And so that's exactly what the character did. The character wears her mask every day. She wears glasses that she doesn't need. She just wants to appear a certain way. She reads hella books on like human behavior, lots of self-help books. You know, she'll tell herself like, okay, I gotta sit up straight. I read in a book that like powerful people do this and likable people do that. She ends up getting her hands on a book, a magical book that basically teaches her how to be a better adult, but it's with like chaos ensues pretty much. And so the tagline for the book is that she is trying to conquer corporate America by any magical means necessary. And that's kind of like the vibe.
How much of you is in Hope?
Oh, I don't know if say 100%, 99%, because I do need my glasses.
Oh, that's so funny. Did you work in corporate America?
I did, yeah. I've been in and out. I've been dipping and dabbing. So, yeah, my first job out of college was at a hunting and boating certification company with a bunch of Republicans. And so...
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And so I had asked my manager, because I remember I applied for jobs for a year. I was even more awkward and weird than I am now. So, like, of course, I was bombing every interview that I did. When I got to this job, I got it on my birthday. And so I remember thinking, like, okay, God must have given me this job. This is my birthday gift. This is it. But then when I asked my manager a few weeks later, like, why did you all choose me? He was like, you took less money than the other girl.
Damn. And he was honest about it too.
Yeah, he just straight up said, yeah, he took less money. And I was making I'm pretty sure I was making less than $30,000 a year.
Oh no.
Like,
you didn't know. You just didn't know.
I didn't know. I was like, I just need a job. And like, I just took it because like I said, I thought it was like, I was like, oh, a blessing from God. God gave me this. And so I started working and I just felt this weird vibe. Like, um, my manager thought that I was an idiot. And I wasn't used to people thinking that I'm an idiot. And so we'd be in like meetings and I would say something and I don't sound the most confident, especially now. Back then I was a little more confident because I hadn't had the experiences I have now. So I would say things and then he like stopped a meeting to Google something that I said right in front of like his higher up. And so I'm like, something about this feels weird that you're stopping a meeting to Google what I'm saying to because you don't believe me, but I'm the expert here. And so it's like things like that, being told that my pencil skirts were too, I don't know if distracting was the word, because I was the only Black woman who worked there or who had ever worked there. And so I guess someone in like accounting or something was like, tell her to stop wearing those. And so my manager was like, can't you wear like, I don't know, leggings under them? Like, I don't know how these things work. Like the poor guy, he was like, I don't know how this.
Yeah, he didn't even know how to address it. And technically,
Yeah.
it should have been HR addressing it anyway. But yeah, that's just somebody who was, you know, that's somebody who was trying to put their issues on you, but you didn't know that. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot.
Yeah, it was weird experience. And so after I left that job, because like I remember I wrote an ebook at the time I was blogging about blogging, and so I wrote an ebook about how to get people to read your blog, and I showed my manager, and he was like, "Who would buy that from you?" And so I was like, "Oh, I got to get out of here." And so I quit, and then that's when I started like my business. Well, I've had lots of business, but that's when I started the primary business that everyone knows me for. After I left that company, and I also started writing this book. So
what is it that makes Hope special?
I think the nice thing about Hope is that she kind of isn't special in that like so many people I think are kind of going through this whole thing of just not knowing what in the world we're supposed to be doing and not understanding how everybody else is able to pretend so well. And what I want people to get out of the book is there is no handbook. Like I think sometimes we hope that there is some kind of like guide, some kind of book, some kind of script that we can follow to like be a successful adult. But at the end of the day, there is none. And so to me, what I'm starting to get out of life is that the point of life is to just tend to your tiny world. Like, you know, the people who pour into you, just pour into them. And then that's the best way to be an adult.
That's powerful. And also just her figuring out her place in the world. Like there's people in the office that are more aggressive than she is, people just in her life that just move different than she does. And you talked about masking, you talked about like just trying to fit in. It seems like by the end of this book, she has figured out her place in the world. Am I correct?
Somewhat. By the end of the book, she's figuring out her place in the world, and that she doesn't have to, that not everybody is equipped to exist in the way that she admires. Like,
I am fascinated by the fact that it's not a self-help book, but there are parts that feel like it. Like, ooh, I've never thought of that. And I wish there was a magical book that told us all what we were, you know, how to navigate Mickey's decisions. But I also think that there's something to be said for this sort of revolution that's been happening in not just corporate America, but work in general. Since 2020, we've seen all of these things about quiet quitting and working from home. Now, there are some people that are grinding, that are working 2 full-time jobs from home. I still don't know how they're doing that.
I've seen that. I've seen people do it in front of my eyes. It's crazy.
It is crazy. I mean, one of those jobs, I'm assuming, has got to be super, super laid back and not with a supervisor like breathing down your neck at all, because otherwise it's a But I've also seen there seems to be this revolution from moving away from the type of work that has been traumatizing Hope in the book, and into more of this soft life, like this. In fact, that's a hashtag, like soft living, soft life. What do you think about that? And is your book part of that genre or no?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that my book is part of that genre. I think Hope would aspire to be
Mm-hmm.
soft life girly, but I think I myself have been definitely steeped in the soft life aesthetic a few years ago when I first started my primary business. um I actually started a Facebook group called Soft Black Girls, and so there's
Remember?
yeah, there was about 6,000 of us, and
Wow.
we would chat about like feminine fashion, girly things, and like kind of in my mind, we were combating against the stereotype that like Black women are like hypersexual or hyper aggressive or, and just letting us be. Because back then, I didn't see many images of us looking like princessy or like now there's cottage core and things like that. Now I
That
see a
didn't
lot.
exist then, right?
Yeah, now I see a lot, which is great.
Was it so? Was your statement to be like, anti the girls that are more masculine or more tomboy, or
Yeah.
was it more of trying to find a place for yourself?
Yeah, it was definitely more trying to find a place for myself, and represent for people like me, who have the same interests as me. But I also do see where it can be problematic, honestly, in many ways. I can see how some people might see the celebration of like softness and stuff like that as like well, why can't we just be ourselves, period? Like, why do we have to be soft to be respected or seen as human or anything like that? Anger is justified like a lot of the times. And that angry Black woman stereotype is so messed up because it harms us in multiple ways. Not only does it allows people to harm us like on the outside, it also internally kind of makes us feel like, oh, second guessing, should I be angry now? Should I be angry now? And it's like, these are things you should be angry about.
And can I show my anger now, or will I just will everybody stop listening and just perceive me in this stereotypical way?
Exactly.
Well, let me ask you this then. Like, how does a soft life girl deal with things that are stressful or that make her angry or if somebody disrespects her?
Yeah. So for me in the past, whenever people made me angry, I self-blamed. I'm like, it must be me. It must be me. Maybe I wasn't nice enough. Maybe I wasn't. And I would just cry. I would just cry. But now when I'm angry, I've learned to like speak up, and like you will be called an angry Black woman. You'll be called an angry Black woman just for saying no.
I was gonna say, you're just standing in the room and you're gonna be considered as angry Black woman. So
exactly. And that's why I just want us to be able to just be us, every facet of us that we can be, safely. So yeah. And then when it comes to like the soft life movement that I've been seeing on TikTok, where it's like, it's kind of in the same vein as the soft Black girl, except it's like more, it feels more capitalistic for some reason.
Yeah, I feel like it didn't start there, but that, like, I remember sort of getting on the train with it, and then I was like, oh, wait, this is messed up. Because it seemed to turn a corner, and I can't tell you when, where it's like, no, soft life doesn't mean poor, or doesn't mean artist. And it's like, oh, okay. And I've even seen some girls go so far as doesn't mean Black people. I'm like, oh, yeah, where are we? I miss my stop. This is not.
I've seen people say like, oh, that soft life is like basically engaging in things that are stereotypically white, but just on a Black body. Or there was a tweet about like Pilates has become the activity of choice for like soft living. And somebody tweeted that like, a certain type of Black woman has started coming to my Pilates class. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, it's so messed up. Like, and if soft life is excluding people If it is about spending money and things like that, then that's not anything I want to be a part of. Because
Also,
me,
I don't know who that person is because I've been to
yeah.
Pilates, and Pilates is hard as hell. So I don't know what they're talking about. Like, I was in spin class before I went back to
Oh,
like, I don't know. I don't know what, but if you do the reformer thing, I don't know what they're talking about because that's not off.
you said that's not about. Yeah.
Give me some restorative yoga and call that song. Crazy. Nothing calm about a Pilates reformer. They lied.
Yeah. See, and that's what I'm talking about. Soft life is getting all twisted and twisted. It's weird now. So yeah, I just everything becomes wrapped in capitalism in time. And so it's not even like surprising that like, and even every time I bring up this topic, because I've talked about it on my podcast, I've engaged in the capitalism of self-care because I sold a self-care box and then I had good intentions, but then it's like, to now I'm starting to think, and this is like the message of my book, that like self-care is really community care, but capitalism gets in the way. So capitalism tells you self-care is like a face mask and buy these candles, go to that class, like do this, do that. But really it's being able to call a friend when you're in need. And like, it's having like a neighbor that you trust that you can leave your kids with so you can go and like breathe. That to me is like ultimate self-care.
And honestly, self-care to me is being able to sit and have a day, whether or not that's a Sunday or a Friday or whatever, where I don't have anything to do, or I just curl up with a blanket and I don't sit there feeling guilty and angst-ridden the whole day because there's all these other things that I should be doing, quote unquote. And I'm not there yet. So, my self-care is trying to figure out how to relax because I don't know how to do it.
And you can't relax because of capitalism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it gets in the way of everything. Like, we're working to the bone.
What I think I really admire you for, Jackie, is the fact that there are, despite tons of people telling you like, oh, you're super successful and I want to be you when I grow up and I love what you do and I love, no matter what it was, whether or not writing this book or having your other business. I'm sorry that you had to go through a depressive state to get there, but whether or not that's going through depression or not, you've been able to say, you know what, this is not for me though. This isn't working for me. And it's funny, I used to say, I love Gen Z because Gen Z is all about like, not just the quitting, but the boundaries.
Yes.
God, because the way I came up, it was always about not quitting and enduring and sort of, you're the only Black woman there. So you have to, make sure that you're the best at whatever. But I used to edit in advertising and you think it's bad now. It was insane then. So I remember saying, I got to get out of this. I can't. This is killing me. And another Black woman saying to me, you can't. You're the only one there. Like you've got, like just in editing and you need to be like a beacon for all these other women and you're their source of strength. I'm like, yeah, but who's my source of strength? Who's helping me? I'm my parents. I had a kind of job that nobody understood what the hell I was doing. So it's not like my mother could, like my mom still doesn't know what I do. So it's not like I could say, oh, let me go back and talk to my mom about what it was like when she was a editor, content creator, producer, or whatever. She didn't know what that meant. So it's just, I really commend you for being able to step back and say, I understand that everybody else likes this, but this is my stop. I'm done.
Yeah.
Because this is what I need. This is what my soul needs. And I think that's amazing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because like you said, like that job was killing you. Like that's how it feels when you're doing something that's like, this is too much. And like you can rip yourself to shreds, like trying to please everybody who has expectations of you. And like, you just can't do it. That's one major lesson that I've learned lately is like, you will end up just becoming a shell of yourself if you listen to what everybody else expects or wants from you.
And your body will let you know. I mean, I kept going until I had a stroke. So.
Oh my gosh, no.
No, I'm a stroke survivor. But it's not, and I'm okay. But it's just one of those things where it wasn't all editing and it wasn't all my relationships and it wasn't all, it was a culmination of everything. And the way I was living my life was to the nth degree, making sure that everybody else was okay and I wasn't, to my detriment. And my body, you know, that book that Your Body Keeps the Score, or The Body Keeps the Score. It's a perfect example. Like no matter what you think you're doing or how well you think you're dealing with it, listen, I am a professional compartmentalizer, and I will tell you I am fine to the end. I'm in the hospital, like I'm good. Like, no, you're also, as Black women, like, especially first gen, second gen Black women,
even growing up, like I was told to like watch your siblings, clean up, and my brother was told, don't do those dishes, don't do that. Like,
just so everybody knows, your background is
Nigerian.
Okay. Yeah. Island Nigerian. I'm the oldest and I'm the only girl. So it's the same. And my mother's from Bermuda and my father's from down south. So I'm like, we're like genetically engineered to just take on everything.
Yep. And that comes up in the book too, actually. Because Hope is a first generation Nigerian American, because, you know, I basically just wrote about myself. And then there are scenes where she kind of like engages with her parents, and you can see that like her mom is just telling her like, you'll find your husband from heaven. Like, what are you doing? Like, find a husband. And then her dad just speaks in grunts. And so it's like, call up when you actually achieve something. Yeah. It's like, I'll speak to you when you achieve something. And that's what it feels like. It's like when you're like a foreign woman, like one side is like, okay, you cannot date, you cannot do anything, but we suddenly want you to be married.
Right. How does that work?
Yeah. And then the other side is like, we need you to make this sacrifice that we made worth it. So you need to, we came here so that you would be great. And so if you're not great, then it's like, dang, did I like waste my parents' journey over here?
Yeah. Be independent. Get your own education. Get everything, to have your own house, have your own life, have your own stuff. And then later she's like, but I want grandchildren. I'm like, checks. No, that wasn't in the memo, Ma. That wasn't, everything was do your own thing. Don't rely on a man. There was nothing in here about a child. So
yeah,
where am I putting that? And I have been married, tried it, didn't take. And I did that for them, you know, and it's just one of those things where it's like, you know, and now my brother has an amazing daughter, my niece, and she looks just like me. And I'm like, that's my kid. I'll just go visit and I'll spoil her and I'll come back. There we go.
Oh my gosh, you're just like me. I have a nephew, and I was like, oh my God, thank God. I'm glad you did it. And my nephew looks like me, and I've said the same thing. I'm like, that's my baby. Somehow that is my baby. Like,
right.
I mean, not in the weird, creepy way.
Right. No, but like, no, what I'm saying, like, the ancestors were like, we're coming through somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this has just been amazing talking to you. And I really am curious, do you have other books you're working on? Do you have other things coming out?
I do. Okay, so I have actually a companion to my Magical Girl's Guide to Life book. It's a coloring book, actually, a self-care coloring book coming out in, I think, July or June. I don't know. But once again, I worked with Venus Bambisa. That is one of my favorite artists to work with. I absolutely love him. And so, yeah, check that out. I also have another book coming out called Death and Disillusionment. It sounds very Edgar Allan Poe.
That does not sound as happy as the other two books. Death and Disillusion. Okay.
So, I'm calling it Short Stories for Woeful Women. And like, it sounds so dark, but the cover is purple and cute. But so it's just a bunch of short stories about like life and death. Like, I think one of the first stories in the book is like a girl who ends up in purgatory at the Court of Souls because she was subtweeting. And so they're trying to decide if she should go to hell. So it's like stories like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's like, it's all about death. It's all about disillusionment, but it's not super heavy. So that should be coming out next. Of course, I have my podcast, The Magical Girl's Guide to Life, which is really just my excuse to like talk to people about things like doll collecting and like cartoons. So
That's awesome. Absolutely.
yeah,
That I'm all for it. Now, let me ask you a question. In terms of the books, you're self-publishing, right? You're not signed with a publishing house.
well, for the Magical Girl's Guide to Life, that's under Ulysses Press.
Okay,
And then for How to Be a Better Adult and Death and Disillusionment, that is Self. So I'm like a hybrid.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
and I know other like there's a couple of Black women-owned publishing houses like Black Jose Press.
Oh my gosh, I
Like
love
that.
her.
Isn't she amazing?
Yes.
So I'm always looking to see like, are you self-publishing? Because
Yeah.
I have my book, but that was through a publishing house at Marvel and stuff. And
Yeah.
people are like, so when's your next one? And I'm like, that was such a huge experience and really daunting and terrifying that my part of me is like, I think I might write a children's book next, just so I can just bring
Yeah.
that panic down.
Oh my gosh, that would be so cute.
I'm gonna try, but yeah, self-publishing compared to like big publishing is very different. And
Yeah.
but people like yourself are giving me hope that I can do it.
Yeah, no, you definitely can. Like the reason I went the self-publishing route or that I'm going the self-publishing route on my weirder stories is literally because they're weird. And so I'm like, I kind of, and some of them are personal. So I'm like, when you do work with a publisher, it becomes like a melting of the minds. Kind of with my book, Magical Girl's Guide to Life. Like I think it's like, yeah, okay. And so it was collaborative in the way that it wasn't my initial idea, but then they let me like write whatever I wanted. And so, but with fiction, I know it's like more collaborative where it's
Yeah.
like people might tell you change that ending, change this and change that, and I was like, I don't want to do that. So like for this one, no.
Yeah, because it was very, very personal. Yeah, you don't want to talk to an editor when they're, I mean, it's good to have an editor to work with for line, just grammatically making your story make sense. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm all there with you with like, publishers have their own mindsets. But
Yeah.
thank you so much. Now, where can they buy the books? Where can they follow you on social media? How can we find you?
So you can buy both How to Be a Better Adult and The Magical Girl's Guide to Life at Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. You can buy signed hardcovers directly from me at JacqueAye.com. That's JACQUEAYE. You can find me everywhere there is to find a person at Jacque Aye. That's JAQUEAYE. So, yeah.
And the podcast one more time?
Oh, the podcast is called The Magical Girl's Guide to Life. And so it's on Spotify, it's on Apple Podcasts. And yeah, I'm very excited because it is a hobby. So, but please listen anyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, there are going to be links in the show notes to all of Jackie's stuff as well as our incredible podcast. And thank you so much. I always love talking to you, but the moment that I saw the book was coming out and I bogarted in on one of her TikTok lives, y'all. I was like, hey.
Yeah, thank you for joining me.
But yeah, and that's also another great way to promote your book, by the way, going live. So
Oh, yeah.
thank you again for stopping by. I really, really appreciate it. And I hope everybody buys these books. And